to the next episode of Propelling Forward. I'm Keith Sawarynski, member of the board and CEO of PIN Business Network. The first guest that we have today is Jay Cohen. Jay got his undergrad from Northwestern University, got his Juris Doctorate from Tulane University, and for the last 20 years, his side gig outside of being a lawyer has been competing in the National Fantasy Football Championships, NFFC, fantasy sports. So the way I would describe Jay is if you have an office pool where you're going to play fantasy football this fall, you do not invite Jay to your league. But with that said, I want to invite Jay onto our podcast. Jay, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Keith.
Awesome. So tell me how you go from your undergrad at Northwestern to your JD at Tulane, and your side hustle is fantasy sports.
Well, I've just always loved sports. Growing up, I had baseball cards like a lot of kids, and I'm about 5'10", but I'm not 6'4", so I just was cut out to be more of a lawyer than a professional athlete. Although I did play tennis and basketball when I was a kid. But, this was a way for me to still be involved in sports as an adult, but obviously not be on the field. So, I have always followed them. I started out playing fantasy basketball actually first back in high school, followed by fantasy baseball. And then college was really when I started, getting more into fantasy football. And that one has just exploded. And I think most people see that fantasy football is far and away what most people play these days.
Yeah. So you started competing 20 years ago in these big time tournaments. This isn't like your local beer league or you're doing the draft in your buddy's basement. This is these are ESPN, these are sanctioned big time tournaments. Can you talk about what that environment is like?
Well, actually, just to make sure I'm being honest, that was more about 2014 when I started doing the high stakes stuff. But prior to that, from the early 2000s to that point, I was winning national championships on ESPN in multiple sports. So I was those were the smaller games, but I was winning prizes. For instance, I was the national champion in ESPN fantasy basketball in 2009, for instance. But then in 2014, I think it was, I started doing the NFFC, which you mentioned, the National Fantasy Football, which, its grand prize this year is $250,000. And so that draws people from all across the country. I'm sure even some international people, who are very serious about this game. And so you get smart minds and competitive people playing this game. And that's, something that I'm in for. I like the competition of it.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. So not only are you competing in these events, but you started your own business around fantasy sports. So Fantasy Sportonomics. So talk to me about how you came up with it. What's the purpose of it? Why create a cottage industry on the side of being the lawyer?
Well, my influences have always been economics and poker. So that's where the Fantasy Sportonomics, name comes from. I kind of combined economics and fantasy sports together. And so that was kind of where my influences were. And then I just kind of created this company because what I actually like to do is change people's mindset, change how they think about this game. To me, the fun part of it is trying to predict the future. We all pick players we like. They're on teams we like. That you can do that. Just because it's a game and you're trying to win doesn't mean you can't also have fun while doing it. But my influences have been economics and poker, and so I tried to create products that will help people change how they think, change their approach, and the byproduct of that is do better while playing this game.
Okay, so when you started the business, it was kind of I would describe it kind of as a consulting gig where you and I would have conversations and you would coach me and you'd give me feedback, but you've evolved it and you've made it more scalable. So can you talk about the product offerings that you now have going into, the NFL season here starts in a few weeks. So can you talk to the listeners about what's on the menu for them?
Sure. So as you mentioned, first I started thinking about this in terms of, I will consult with people and help them plan for their drafts. But that's just hard because there's only one of me and I can only be in one place at one time, as much as I, want to be omnipresent. So I thought about how I could scale this up. And the thought was to do a masterclass, an online course, which has the benefit of I put all of my knowledge, my tips, my tricks, my next level strategy, and exclusive content into slide presentations with audio commentary, and then that's available for people to purchase and download and then I can be everywhere at one time.
Yeah. Here at Penn we call it coming up with ideas that are infinitely scalable, that then you can automate. Right, and then when you can automate it, you can eventually turn it over to a computer to do it, on your behalf. So I like where you're going. But here's the question I have. So when I play fantasy sports, I don't, because in my mind I can't be drafting players who play for teams that I would never root for, and so I end up just like, this is why I never win NCAA pools. Because there's just certain teams I will not allow to win, even though they're a number 1 seed and they're not going to lose to the 16th seed. I just can't get myself to write that name. So I'm a novice. Are these courses for me?
Yes. I designed this course specifically so that it is for everyone. There's 5 lessons. They're each between 15 and 20 minutes. So they're nice, easy listens, and the slides are the best part. The slides I take special pride in, because that's part of what I do in my regular job is I make slides often during baseball salary arbitration season. So I know my way around Canva and PowerPoint, and I know how to make things clear with, for argumentation's sake. And so I've tried very hard to make the slides understandable for everyone. And I want people of all skill levels to be better. That this is the idea. In a perfect world, this would kind of be what Doyle Brunson, a famous poker player's super system, was for poker players. It was one of the first systems. Now we have everyone from Daniel Negreanu to Phil Ivey to, Phil Hellmuth. Everyone has their own theories, their own books. But Doyle Brunson is one of the people I think of who kind of started that. And I am hoping I can be at the ground level, and I'm thinking of this in terms of I'm sharing my knowledge and expertise here, and it's to make everyone better. Just Doyle Brunson made a whole generation of poker players better. Yeah.
I think in the starter kit for Doyle Brunson's program, you also got a 10-gallon hat. Is that true?
You make a good point. I need to come up with my own, side, piece of hardware that I could, hand out with the Masterclass, I suppose.
Yeah. See, you and I can talk about that afterwards, because we don't want to give away trade secrets during the show. But so maybe tell the audience, how can they find you? Where can they find you?
Well, first of all, we have the website, which is www.fantasysportonomics.com. That's all one word, no underscores in between the 2 words. I'm also on social media on Facebook at Fantasy Sportonomics, Instagram at Fantasy Sportonomics, TikTok at Fantasy Sportonomics, and Twitter F Sportonomics, just because there was a character limit for Twitter usernames.
Yeah, good. And we'll put all that stuff in the description for this video. We'll also sort of flash it up on the screen as we exit. But I've enjoyed the time right with you. I think the product that you're offering and the products that you're offering are exciting. I would be shocked if you didn't have some customers that actually work for me right now coming on board. And I would be shocked if those people weren't reaching out to you at some point in time to just see if they could nudge you back into the consulting area. The league here is pretty competitive, but I had to institute some rules because I thought there were some unfair practices that were going on. But I really enjoy watching them do it. Again, I don't participate because I would just pick. I mean, frankly, I would just pick all Steelers and then I would lose, and that's just how that works, right? But any sort of go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm really excited about how the Masterclass came together, but I do still offer the Draft Advisor, which is a Zoom session for people to get a one-on-one experience prior to their draft. have to get some help from me that way.
Okay, perfect. So I would encourage everyone that is listening and watching this podcast to follow Jay. Reach out, right? Go to his website, download the class, right? Purchase that stuff, right? You're basically have the opportunity to learn from a master. You can read. Jay has written for ESPN. He's written for USA Today Sports. The guy knows what he's talking about. There are pictures of you on the internet that will live forever, with you raising championship trophies and banners and people clapping for you and confetti, right? So Jay's the real deal, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk to me and join the Propelling Forward podcast. Is there anything else you want to say to the listeners before we head out?
No, I encourage everyone to look into my math, and I wish everyone good luck in their fantasy football season in 2020.
Fantastic. Well, again, thanks for your time, and for all of you that are listening, comment, like, share down below any questions you have, and then please feel free to reach out to Jay, and I encourage all of you to download his class and participate. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.